Hello everyone. I am 70 years old and I want to tell you about the afternoon I sat down on my own sofa and could not relax. Not because I was tired, not because anything was wrong with the sofa, but because every surface I could see was covered in something. The coffee table had magazines, remote controls, a candle I never lit, and a small dish accumulating coins and batteries and things I could not identify without picking them up. The bookshelves had books, but also decorative objects, framed photographs, a plant that had not survived, 2 candles, and a bowl. The side table beside me had a lamp, a coaster, a small glass figure, a notepad, a hand cream, and a folded piece of paper with information that must have felt important at some point. I sat in the middle of all of it and thought, I spend hours every week cleaning this room. I wipe, I dust, I straighten, I rearrange, and it never looks clean for more than a day. Because the problem is not how I am cleaning. The problem is the volume of things I am cleaning around. That afternoon, I started removing things, not with a plan, not with a system, just with a willingness to be honest about what each object was actually contributing to the room and to my life. I have been removing things ever since, with more intention each time. These 11 items are the categories that make the biggest difference to how clean and spacious a home feels the moment they leave it. Item 1, decorative objects that you are no longer seeing. There is a particular category of object in most homes that occupies space without offering anything in return. And it is not the objects you dislike. It is the objects you have stopped noticing. The small figurine that has been on that shelf for 12 years. The decorative bowl on the console table because it has always sat there. The framed print on the wall that you pass 20 times a day without actually seeing it. When an object has been in your home long enough to become invisible, it has stopped being decoration. It has become visual noise. And visual noise accumulates the same way actual noise does. Slowly, until one day the room feels loud and you cannot quite say why. I began removing objects I could not remember choosing to look at recently. Not objects I disliked, simply objects that had stopped registering as things I had intentionally placed. Every single one left the room without loss. What replaced them was space, and space is always more valuable than the object occupying it. Tell me in the comments, is there one object in your home that you genuinely cannot remember the last time you noticed it? You do not have to remove it today, but naming it is the beginning. Item 2. Excess throw pillows. I owned 14 throw pillows across my living room and bedroom. I wrote that number down the day I counted them, and I want you to know I am not exaggerating. 14 pillows. None purchased with the intention of having 14, accumulated 2 at a time until they were something I removed every evening before sitting down, and replaced every morning as part of cleaning. I kept 4, 2 on the sofa and 2 on the bed. The rest went to a charity that furnishes homes for people starting over. The sofa looked like itself, and the 30 seconds spent removing and replacing pillows every day became 30 seconds I simply had back. The principle applies to anything you remove before using and replace afterward as routine. That is small work, but work done every day, and it adds up across years into a significant amount of time spent maintaining objects whose primary function has become requiring maintenance. Item 3. Kitchen appliances that live on the counter but are rarely used. The kitchen counter is the most contested surface in any home. Every appliance that lives there permanently must earn that space by being used regularly enough to justify the visual weight, the cleaning burden, and the reduction in available working area it creates. I removed a bread maker used perhaps 4 times in 7 years. A juicer bought during a health motivation that had not outlasted the month. A large food processor that I could have replaced with a smaller one for the tasks I actually used it for. A toaster oven that duplicated the function of my regular oven for the single task I had justified keeping it for. Every counter appliance I removed gave me back working space, reduced the surface I needed to wipe down after cooking, and made the kitchen feel immediately larger. The counter is for cooking, not storage. The moment you treat it as storage, the kitchen begins to work against you. If you have not yet subscribed and you are finding this useful, please subscribe now. I share this kind of practical, genuinely lived wisdom about keeping a home clean and spacious every single week, and I would love for you to be here for all of it. Item 4, duplicate items in every room. This is the category that surprises people most when they actually count. I had 6 wooden spoons, 4 colanders, 3 can openers, 7 spatulas, of which I used perhaps 2. Not a hoarder's kitchen, a normal kitchen in which items had been replaced before the original was discarded, or received as gifts without displacing what was already there, or arrived in sets where only 1 or 2 pieces were ever truly needed. The duplication extends beyond the kitchen. 2 irons, 3 sets of scissors in the study, multiple flashlights distributed across drawers, most requiring new batteries, most forgotten until I opened the drawer. Duplicates take up physical space, but also cognitive space. Every time you open a drawer and see more than you need, some part of your brain registers a small problem requiring a future decision. I went through every drawer and cabinet in my home and removed every duplicate until I had 1 of each thing I actually needed. The drawer space that opened up was extraordinary. The drawers became places I could find things rather than places I avoided opening. Item 5, old magazines, newspapers, and printed material. I had kept magazines because I intended to go back and read the articles I had flagged. I had kept newspapers because I had clipped or intended to clip something from them. I had kept printed recipes, directions, and information because at the moment of printing, it had felt important, and I had not gotten around to dealing with it. None of these intentions had been acted on in any meaningful way. The magazines were from seasons that had passed. The newspaper articles referred to events whose outcomes I already knew. The printed material had, in almost every case, already been superseded or was available on my phone in 30 seconds if I ever actually needed it. I recycled almost all of it. Articles worth keeping I photographed with my phone and recycled the paper. Magazine subscriptions went into a folder, stayed for 1 month, and were recycled whether or not I had read them. Printed material no longer accumulates because I made a rule. If I print something, it is dealt with within a week. After that, it leaves. Tell me in the comments, do you have a pile of printed material somewhere in your home that you intend to deal with and have not yet gotten to? Most of us do. I kept mine for years. I want you to know that nothing of consequence was lost when I finally let it go. Item 6, clothing that does not fit, does not suit, or has not been worn in 2 years. I will keep this section shorter than it could be, because most of us already know this one in theory, and the only thing standing between knowing and doing is the willingness to be honest about each specific garment. The test is straightforward. Does this fit my body as it is right now? Does it suit the life I am actually living? And have I worn it in the past 2 years? 2 years is the test because it accounts for seasons. If something has been through 2 full cycles without being worn, it is not a garment I am wearing. When I cleared my wardrobe this way, I removed approximately 40% of what was in it. The closet that remained was one where I could see everything at a glance, where getting dressed required no excavation, and where everything present was something I actually wore. Item 7. Linens and towels past their best. Every linen cupboard I have ever organized contains items that were once good and are no longer genuinely good, kept until they can be guiltlessly discarded. The sheets with thin patches, the towels that no longer absorb properly, the pillowcases with the stain that survived multiple washes, the hand towels that are technically still hand towels, but not something you would offer a guest. These items are kept because discarding something still technically functional feels wasteful. But the cost is real. They take shelf space, create the mild depression of a linen cupboard that looks defeated, and make every interaction a reminder that things in your home are in various stages of decline. I removed every linen and towel I would not offer someone I respected. The animal shelter in my town accepts old towels, which help me release items I could not bear to simply discard. What remained was genuinely good and a small pleasure to open, rather than something I organized around. Please subscribe if you are not yet subscribed. A home that stays clean and spacious is built from hundreds of small, consistent decisions exactly like these. And every week I share what I have learned from decades of making those decisions and watching what actually works. Item 8. The contents of the junk drawer. Every home has at least one drawer designated, officially or unofficially, as the place where objects go when they do not have a proper home. The junk drawer is not a problem in itself. It is a symptom of objects that arrived without being assigned a specific place, and it expands to fill whatever space is available until opening it becomes a small act of suppressed resignation. I emptied my junk drawer completely onto the kitchen table and sorted everything into 3 groups: things that were actually useful and needed a proper home, things kept against a need that had not arrived in years, and things that were broken, empty, expired, or without any purpose I could identify. The second and third groups were removed. The first was given proper homes elsewhere. The drawer was repurposed for something specific. The act of emptying and sorting a junk drawer takes less than an hour. The daily benefit of not having one over months and years is significant. Item 9. Furniture that creates clutter zones. Some pieces of furniture do not create storage. They create clutter. Storage holds things you use and find easily. A clutter zone accumulates objects by gravity, by habit, and by the simple fact that something horizontal at a convenient height becomes a surface onto which things are placed without intention. The side table in my bedroom had become a clutter zone. Its size and position made it a perfect landing spot for everything I carried into the bedroom and did not immediately deal with. Removing it did not leave me without a bedside surface. It left me without a clutter accumulation mechanism, which was the actual problem. I replaced it with something smaller that holds only what I specifically chose to place there. Not every piece of furniture that creates a clutter zone needs to be removed. Some can be repurposed or relocated in ways that break the pattern. But when a piece consistently produces disorder rather than order, it is worth asking honestly whether it is actually serving you in its current form. Tell me in the comments, is there a piece of furniture in your home that you suspect is functioning more as a clutter collector than as something genuinely useful? I find that most people have at least one, and naming it honestly is almost always the first step toward dealing with it. Item 10. Cleaning products you own but do not actually use. This one belongs here because the irony is that excess cleaning products work against cleanliness. I had a cupboard so full I could not easily find what I actually used, which meant I cleaned with whatever came to hand rather than whatever was appropriate, which meant some surfaces were cleaned badly, and the cupboard remained a source of frustration every time I opened it. I removed every product I had not used in the past 3 months. The duplicates, 3 different bathroom sprays, 2 different floor cleaners, multiple variations on the same function. I kept white vinegar, a good multi-surface spray, a bathroom cleaner, a floor cleaner, and dish soap. Everything else left. The cupboard became a place I could find what I needed in 3 seconds, which made me more likely to clean properly and more frequently, which is the actual goal. Item 11. Anything kept out of guilt rather than genuine use or love. This last one is worth naming directly because it is behind more clutter than almost anything else I have encountered in 50 years of caring for homes. Objects kept out of guilt have a particular quality. They are usually gifts from people you love or objects from people no longer living. Items you would not have chosen for yourself and never quite found a place for. Are items that stayed put long enough that removing them began to feel disloyal. They occupy space in your home the way a difficult conversation occupies space in a relationship. Not loudly, but constantly, and in a way that slowly accumulates weight. I have released many things I kept initially out of guilt. I have not regretted any of them. The people who gave them to me are held in my memory, not in the object. The people no longer here are present in the things I genuinely love that remind me of them, not in the things I keep out of obligation. A home cleared of guilt-kept objects is lighter in a way that is difficult to describe until you have experienced it. Not the lightness of loss, the lightness of honesty. These 11 categories have shaped how I approach my home more than any cleaning method or organizing system I have ever learned. Because the foundation of a clean and spacious home is not a technique, it is an ongoing, honest relationship with the objects you share your space with, and a willingness to let go of the ones that are costing you more than they are giving you. I want to hear from you now. In the comments, tell me which of these 11 items speaks most directly to where you are in your home right now. The decorative objects you've stopped seeing, the duplicate kitchen items, the clothing you're keeping past its time, the things kept out of guilt. Tell me honestly. And if you have already removed one of these categories and want to share what happened, I want to hear that even more. And please subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. Every week I share real practical wisdom about keeping a home that feels genuinely good to live in. Not theory, the actual things that actually work, shared honestly, for people who deserve to live in a home that feels spacious and clean and completely theirs. I'll see you next week.